day, and welcome to this broadcast of the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. I'm Kim Warren Martin, and I'm excited for you to hear from someone who's normally not on this side of the camera. Abi Bedoya is the Chief Transformation Officer at Bedoya Studios. She's an award-winning portrait photographer who believes there is beauty in everyone and is truly gifted at pulling it out with her contemporary magazine style of photography. Her story is the classic story of being successful but unfulfilled. Listen to how she defied cultural and family norms to pursue her dream. Get ready to learn from what I call a true rebel, Abi Bedoya, as she trains on Love Yourself First in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I am Abi Bedoya, and I am the Chief Transformation Officer at Bedoya Studios in Northern California. Today, I'm so excited to be part of the Successful and Fulfilled Summit, and I thank Kim Warren Martin to give me this opportunity to be in front of so many people and share my story and share my beliefs. I'm going to be talking about loving yourself first, and the keys to loving yourself first are forgiveness, acceptance, acceptation, and conquering your fears. So before we get started on that, let me share with you that I am on the fourth step, conquering my fears. I am usually on the other side of the camera. I'm the one doing the recording and the prompting. But today I am here in front of the screen because I feel that this message is important and this message has value and everybody should hear it. And if wherever you are in your journey in life, you have a right to love yourself first and be successful and fulfilled. So that's where I am at. But before we begin, let me tell you about my story, why I believe I have something to share with you. You see, I'm an Indian. I was born in an Indian family, and in an Indian family, you can either be a doctor or an engineer. So you had to go through science, you take biology or mathematics, and so in my mind there was never really an option. Yes, I love taking pictures. I had a camera when I was younger as a child, and I love taking pictures of things and seeing the way, when you capture a moment and seeing the way it was printed on paper in a dark room, and I love that feeling. But in my mind, that was never a viable career option. It was always a hobby, a vocation, something that you do on the side while you make money doing something else. And so I did what my folks wanted me to do, and to be honest, at that time, I think that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to go into engineering school, get an engineering degree. I did my master's in computer science, got a job with a big company, and a really nice paycheck. In India, there's this thing. I am the eldest of 4 kids, and in India, there is a saying: if your eldest is successful, all other kids would also be successful. So I felt like I had a responsibility to my sisters and my brother, and I had to be a role model for them. And that is why Kim's story just struck a chord with me when she shared what she shared in her undeniably audacious book. It struck a chord with me because her story and my story are so similar in that I am the eldest. I felt like I had to be a role model. I had to show them how you are successful, and the definition of successful was having a good job, having a decent salary, making a life for yourself. And I am blessed. I am blessed that I had a good job. I have a great husband, and I had a great salary, and I got to travel the world with my job, and I was happy. And at that time, I think I was content in those moments up until the time when I had my kids. So when I had my kids and I had to cut back on the travel, which I wanted to, and I wanted to cut back on the time that I spent in my career, in my job, is when I started to feel that something is missing. And having my kids, having the responsibility of raising, these little beings that come out of you, and you having the responsibility of making sure that they turn into right adults, that got me thinking. That got me thinking about, what am I doing? Am I really happy? If my daughter grows up, and she asks me, what did you always want to be? Or did you always want to be an engineer? Was that your dream? How do you define success? So that's my story. That is where I realized that I have to stop living the life that others wanted me to live, or I thought that I should live, but start living the life that I really want deep down from my soul to live, and the life that I will be proud of one day, and the life that can proudly share with my kids and tell them, hey, I lead by example, and this is what I did, so you can do whatever you want. So I broke the norms of my family, and I've always been a rebel, so they were not that surprised, but I did break the norms, and I, stopped being an engineer, and I, quit my job and started a business, which was, to my mom, it was crazy. But I think that was the best decision of my life. And how I did that was when I went on this journey of loving myself first, and loving the life that I lived, and who I am inside, and not who people want me to be. That's when I realized what I wanted to do and what the right path for me would be. So, and I want to share this with you. I want you to embrace it and hear about it from me, and live this life of success and fulfillment from the inside, not just to the world, but you need to feel that you are successful and fulfilled and proud of who you are from the inside. So let me tell you about the steps. The first step to loving yourself is forgiveness. So not just forgiveness to people who you think have done wrong towards you, but forgiveness inside you to yourself. Forgive yourself for whatever you think you have done wrong in the past. If you have issues with family members, call them up, talk it out, heal your relationships. Forgive others who you think have done wrong towards you. Just if you cannot heal that relationship, if those people have passed, or you cannot just reach to them, sit with yourself and say, I forgive you. This is one of the hardest steps. It took me the longest to do, and it might take you the longest to do too, because forgiveness is not easy. It's not. The hurt we feel sometimes drives us, so we don't want to let go of that hurt, because that drives us. That makes us feel that, oh, we are human, because we feel this anger, this frustration, this hurt. But letting it go is powerful, and I invite you to be on the other side. Forgive yourself, forgive your relationships. Just let it go, and believe me, it is the most powerful feeling. The next step is acceptance, and this is accepting who you are, not who you want to be, not who you want to be in 10 years or 5 years, but who you are today. I am this body. Yes, I am 80 pounds heavier than I would like to be, but I am me. This is the body, this is the vessel that drives me, that gives me the means to carry the work that I'm supposed to be doing. So accepting myself, this is me today. I am here. And look, make a list. Make a list of all the things that you believe you have accomplished in the past, or you think you have, you have accomplished in the past, and look at it, and look, really look at it. Make a list of things you've done, and when you look back, you realize you have come so far. Like in business, we do I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in business, so I do this parallel all the time. In business, we often work in our business so much that we forget to look at the 360-degree view of the business. And sometimes when we sit down and actually pay attention to where we have come from the day we started, we would see a big difference. So accepting this is where I'm at, this is who I am, and I love myself in this. Enjoy the journey. It is a journey. The next step then, it was an accident that I found this step. For me, I was so much into my business that I was, again, running the risk of burning out. But now I was passionate about this business. So I found meditation. Now, my meditation is taking a walk, just going on a walk randomly, wherever I could, walking on the beach, walking on the road, just trying to focus on something else. So meditation could be different things for you. And I invite you to find your meditation. It doesn't have to be sitting in a quiet room and closing your eyes and meditating. It can be going to a fitness studio and working out. It can be listening to music. It can be dancing to any music you love. It can be a Zumba class. It can be a Pilates class. It can be anything that calms your mind and feeds your soul. It could be reading a book. But find your meditation, what excites you and feeds your soul and calms you down. So find your meditation. And once you do that, okay, this last one is going to be hard. And I'm big on lists, so I will again ask you to make a list. The last one is conquer your fears. Like me being in front of you right now, here in front of the camera. It's one of the steps of me conquering my fears. I'm usually on the other side of the camera. I'm not the person who likes to be the star of the show. I like to be the person, the director, behind the scenes person, taking care of all the logistics and stuff. I like to be in front of the camera. And when Kim asked me to do this video, I was like, oh, this is totally on my conquer your fear list. So yes, Kim, I have to do it. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. But so let me share with you, make a list of all the things you're scared of, but you know that you got to do to be successful and fulfilled and happy and walk the path that you want to walk. So make a list of those things and find a buddy or find a partner. Take a friend and ask her or him to help you out, or find a coach if you don't want to do it alone. But step by step, one by one, break your fears down. You will be so much more. I don't know how to describe this feeling, but when one of my fears was having my portraits taken. I was scared of having my portraits taken since I put a lot of weight after my kids. And so when I started on this journey, I booked a shoot with my mentor, and I had to go to LA, and I was so scared. But I dragged myself to LA. I dragged myself to LA. I went in, I had my shoot with her. But I was so scared the whole time. But once I had the shoot and I looked at the images, it was a wonderful feeling. I couldn't believe what I was scared of the whole time. Like all that fear just melted away because it was all in my head. So, one of the images that came out of it was the image that you see on my profile, and it's beautiful. I love that shot of me. I feel like it captures me, my vulnerability and my determination in a wonderful way, in a beautiful way. And so, yes, please make a list of your fears. Find a buddy, find a friend, find a coach, and break them down one by one. And believe me, this is a journey. Many times in your life, you will have to go through these steps. You will find yourself back at the beginning and going through these steps. Being successful and fulfilled is a constant process and a journey, not a destination. Because once you think you're going to be somewhere and you reach there, but your perspectives change, then you want to be some more. So have these tools in your bag. And if you would like to connect with me and get a summary of these 4 steps, and I'm also offering a design consultation for your portrait session with me, however you want to be photographed, text ABHI, A-B-H-I, once again, text ABHI to 408-913-6963. 408-913-6963. Thank you for listening. I'm so glad you took the time to be with me today, and I wish you all the best in your successful and fulfilled journey of life.
Hi, I'm Kim Warren Martin, and I'm the founder of Successful and Fulfilled, where our mission is to help women to embrace the courage I know you already have to step out of your comfort zone and live life the way you want to live, not just the way you're expected to live. It's not about leaving your job, your family, or school, or any of that. It's about launching into what I call the #undeniable you. So if you want to be a part of a mastermind and enjoy the type of training and support you're receiving now, where experts talk about components of self-mastery, business principles, and wealth building, if you're looking to make sure you're connected to a resource that is all about supporting you to live a successful and fulfilled lifestyle, come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. I want to meet with you to make sure it's a good fit. If you want to be a part of this movement of individuals dedicated to not only the emotional state of happiness, but also the soulful state of fulfillment, I invite you to a private conversation to make sure you learn more about us and we learn more about you. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. It is a great way for me to learn more about what you want to be successful, about what you need to be fulfilled, and what's most important to you in your life. This is a highly customized membership, so we are very selective. And so I want to meet with you to be sure it's a good fit for both of us. If you're ready to share your talents, your skills, your treasure, your expertise so someone else can live a successful and fulfilled life, this is the place to be. Maybe you want to share your story, or maybe you're called to serve others. If you want to collaborate, network, and connect with a group of women who have this one guiding belief: you don't have to sacrifice your success for fulfillment, nor do you have to sacrifice your fulfillment for success. You can #have it all, as long as you're the one who defines what it all is. So I invite you to come over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com. Make sure you register and I'll see you there. Now you may be wondering, why do I care? Why do I do what I do? Well, my big why is to help women all over the world live life the way they want to live, the way they're called to live, the way they're created to live, the way they're purposed to live, and the way they're destined to live, not just the way they're expected to live. George Washington Carver said, "No individual has any right to come into the world and go out of it without leaving distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it. Growing up, I was absolutely convinced that singing and dancing on Broadway and being in movies in Hollywood were my distinct and legitimate reasons for being here. I could already see my name in lights and experiencing the costume changes, etc., etc. I even planned to go to performing arts school for college, but was waiting on the perfect time to announce it to my parents. Now, when I was a senior in high school, my parents invited me into the living room one night because they had an announcement of their own. They said that according to the Wall Street Journal, engineering and computing careers would be some of the top careers of the future. So because I was the oldest and because I was a role model, they were going to send me to engineering school. Now, all I could think of, my 18-year-old self was just like, how am I going to get an Oscar at engineering school? Literally, I felt like my entire life rested on that moment. Now, no amount of respectful rejecting could change their mind. So I went to school. I went to engineering school, and 2 years and 8 months later, I came out with a Bachelor of Science degree. Yes, I did, in a short time. And what I thought I had was my freedom. I thought that paper gave me my freedom and would please my parents. But I got a job, a real job. The money got good. I got promoted. The perks were awesome. I did well. And I was a wonderful role model. And my sisters followed closely in my footsteps. So there I was, a very artsy, analytical person in a scientific, technical world. And someone realized that about me and called me up one night and invited me to run the Women's Initiative for this multinational corporation. So my role was to help women get to the top on the technical side and on the business side. So I thought about it a couple of days and I said yes. And I did that globally. And I was literally told I changed the face of the corporation. One day I was working with a woman who actually told me no. She didn't want to get to the top. Now, I was absolutely shocked, but deep inside, I totally understood her. And all I could hear was my dream asking me, Kim, you spent all this time helping all these women get to where we want them to be, but you never stop to ask yourself, where do you want to be? I had completely lost sight of my dream. And at that moment, I realized that the only thing the role model in me was demonstrating was how to live life the way I was expected to live, not the way I wanted to live. I was successful, yes, but I was unfulfilled. And for me, that was a defining moment. You see, I still love the arts, but what I realized is that the singing, the dancing, the acting were more about freedom for me, not entertainment. Freedom of expression, freedom of being, freedom of doing. And working with women all over the world, I have come to realize that every woman was born to live in a soulful state of fulfillment. And ladies, we can do it because fulfillment is not a fantasy, it's a formula. And what I do know is I am not alone. There are other women out there like me who want to live a successful and fulfilled life. So is that you? If so, here's what I want you to do. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com and let's have a conversation. I really, really look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Being successful and fulfilled requires making some bold moves. Why? Because you're stepping outside of the norm. You're not adhering to the status quo, and frankly, that requires courage and boldness. I'm Kim Warren-Martin, and I welcome you to this broadcast of the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. Today's faculty trainer, Dana Davis, has been called things like a dreamer and lucky for some of the bold moves she's made and some of the successes she's had. She is co-owner and founder of several businesses that were once only a dream. In addition to being selected for various movie and TV appearances, Dana has also been tapped to share her relationship advice on stage at well-known venues and in print for the acclaimed Ebony magazine. The bold move to walk away from the comforts of corporate America and a six-figure income has allowed Dana's message of courage and faith to resonate with audiences from all walks of life. I've watched part of her journey, and I am truly excited for you to learn from the amazing Dana Davis as she trains on bold moves. in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Dana Davis. You'll be spending the next 15 to 20 minutes with me or more, depending on how excited I get in sharing my topic with you. But first, I'd just like to acknowledge that I am excited to be a part of the Success and Fulfillment Digital Summit that is going on. You are in for a treat, and I am just extremely humbled to be a part of it because I take the approach that if anyone has anything that they can gain and benefit from something that I have to share, that is extremely humbling for me. I'm just a South Central Los Angeles girl who had dreams like the next little girl, despite where you come from, and who made a decision to go after her dreams. And so that's what the bulk of my talk will be about. In fact, it is entitled Bold Moves. And as I talk about leadership, leadership is simply nothing more than moving something, anything, from one point to the next point. And so even as we talk about ourselves, a place we may be emotionally, a place that we may be in our physical location, a place we may be in our careers, a place we may be in terms of fulfilling some of our dreams, it's all about moving something from one point to another. And so as I talk about bold moves, I'm going to share specific strategies that I have employed in my personal life and that have worked for me. One of the things I've also learned about leadership is that sometimes as we change in our lives, what we do sometimes evolves and change. And so these are what I consider my core tips, but there are other things that I've continued to learn along the way. Now, I will give you just a little bit of just an intro here of what's going on. I'm here at my office, and we are right in the middle of deliveries, and so you may hear a little bit of chiming and walking in and out, and so hopefully it won't get too bad. And so I'll just mention that up front. And so without further ado, let's get started. So as I talk about bold moves, I'd like to say that there are two things that have been in my life from the beginning. And well, let me say this, one that's been in my life from the beginning, and another that I've learned somewhere in the middle of my life that I chose to keep along the way. And the first thing that has been important as I share mine is putting God first. And putting God first is something that's very important to me. When I was a young girl, between the ages of 5 and 7, I don't know the exact age, I remember talking to God on a regular basis. And while I didn't necessarily hear him directly back to me, I knew something bigger than me was real. I went to church a few times with my grandparents and had some relationship with God just through my church body, but I never just necessarily knew he was real yet. But I would talk to God, and I would tell him my dreams, and I knew that I didn't want to be where I was, even as a child, because I was in a bad situation. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and pretty bad neighborhood. In fact, on one side of where I lived, there was a manufacturing company that manufactured basically cars and junk. On the other side of me was a liquor store, and in the back of me was an alley. And that's where I lived for over 18 years of my life. And so it was tough. And so I would talk to God, and I would tell him my dreams. And so when people would ask me, what we typically ask kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? I had my standard story. You know, I knew that I wanted lots of kids. I said 5 at the time, which I didn't quite make it there. I'll share that a little bit more about that later. But I had 5 kids, wanted to be married. I wanted to travel all over the world. I wanted to own my own business, and that was somewhat inspired by my grandmother, who was a beautician, and my grandfather, who was a landscaper, but they didn't have education. They just had kind of to a dream, and even though it didn't go to the next level, it was enough to provide for their family. So that was the inspiration there. And then, of course, I would always end it with I wanted lots of money. And of course, I just knew that because I wanted, we knew money could buy things. And so that's what I would say. And so while I didn't get a direct answer then, my first experience with God came many years later when I began to see some of my, the first thing actually that I wanted to happen was kind of coming to life. And it took place June 1992. I was 22 years old, and I was walking across the stage at the University of California, Santa Cruz, with my business economics degree. But in the corner on the side, I saw in my peripheral vision my husband, who was my high school sweetheart. Yep, I was married at 22, and my brand new, beautiful son, my 2-month-old baby boy. And so even up to that part, I made some decisions and made some choices that made it challenging, that actually somewhat expected as a young girl growing up in South Central Los Angeles. Young pregnancy, not being able to go on and go to higher education, not being able to even afford to get through college, and other obstacles as well as even get through college and graduate. And so right then, when I not only made some additional decisions that made it a little more challenging, which I don't regret, I was able to push past one of my first barriers, which was being the first college graduate in my family. And as I didn't realize then, that I realized later, that was the first step in boldly moving forward in materializing some of my dreams. And so I said all that to say is that that's when I knew, wow, it worked talking to this God, going to church. Again, it's not just going to church for me, but talking to something that I knew was higher than me. And I couldn't put it into words. I didn't have all the theology. I didn't know much of the Bible, but just what I did know, I knew that this person that I called God at the time was real. And so that's something in my life that I have kept with me and will continue to keep with me, is sitting in first. Now, I made some decisions along the way, and we'll talk about that later. But that's the first thing as I talk about bold moves. The second thing for me in talking about bold moves is being your unique self. And I'll just say, as we talk about unique, it's normally spelled U-N-I-Q-U-E, but I'll say Y-O-U, being your unique self. And for me, that is non-negotiable. Now, I said earlier that this was something I learned in the beginning, and that's not quite the case. That's something that I learned a little bit later in life, probably as late in life as just about 10 years ago. I'm in my mid-30s. We're oftentimes are taught as little girls, and sometimes just in society, that there's sometimes an expected path to take. You're supposed to look this way if you want to make it. You're supposed to dress this way if you want to make it. You have to talk this way. You have to hold your fork this way. You have to know these certain people and hang around this group of people to be accepted and not rejected. You should be well versed and cultured and should have traveled these places and known certain history to make you be accepted. And that would be the only way that you can make it. Well, if I believed that story, and I'm not saying that those things are bad, and I'm not saying that those things could not help you later in a place in your life, but that's not what I was. And for me to attain all of that immediately would probably have taken a lifetime. And so for me, I had to learn to be my unique self comfortably. And of course, along the way, learn some of the things I mentioned, but learn to be. And so what was my unique self? I guess if I were to share with you that in the beginning, I'm that girl that, I liked, even as I think about me today, I like hip hop. I'm the girl that, I like to, if you asked me if I wanted to go to the 5-star restaurant or if I had a choice between some good fried chicken, I probably sometimes would say I'm going with the fried chicken earlier on. If you ask me, where did I see myself in terms of traveling or going at early on in my life, I just wanted to go some places around the States, very limited. I was okay with that. And what I find as I became more comfortable in being myself, whatever that is, and that changes. I mean, if I were to tell you today, I got a long list of being myself. I'm an independent. I don't vote for Democrat or Republican. I'm a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, a person who's talked to executives all over the country, traveled to 6 of the 7 continents, over 25 countries. But I'm a person who still likes to, have fun at a pole fitness dancing class. I like a good hip hop concert, as I mentioned earlier. I like a good mystery novel. I like to go see some scary movies sometimes. And sometimes, I'll pick up the chicken wing with my finger, totally pushing forward and pushing past a lot of the expectations of what people say you are. But what I've also found, this is the part that I think is interesting, when I tell people later that some of the things that they aspire to do, whether it's, being on a television show, I've had a chance to be on 3 TV shows that I'll talk a little bit about that later, or being written up, or having a story written about you, was contacted by several national publications along with my husband to do stories on business. Have had an opportunity to go to Fortune 500 companies to speak to executives and teach them various leadership skills. One of them you may have heard of, Dole Foods, going to them 3-4 times to talk about strategic thinking, all while being this person who sometimes pushes the status quo. People would go, wow, that's pretty cool. How did you manage to be or go or do those things? Well, for me, I think it just started with being comfortable with being myself, not worrying about if I didn't fit the status quo or fit the mold that people thought I should be. Yet, when you ask a person, how do they feel about going to that next level in terms of their business or in terms of getting a promotion or, being in certain places or destinations they'll like to be. If I were to share with them what I have chosen to be and say, hey, how have you decided to be who you're chosen to be, your unique self? They would go, well, I can't do that. Because if I do that, I won't be accepted, or I'll be rejected, or I'll be excluded. And they just don't feel comfortable. They're not going to let you in. Well, I would challenge you to think about 2 or 3 leaders that you can think of. I know one for me is Oprah. She would have listened to what TV executives had said to her back in the day. She was told that she would never be or fit, especially at that time, she was an considered overweight woman, okay, in society's view. At the time, she was told she didn't fit the mold of TV. Well, I think we all are very clear on who Oprah is today, whether you are in China, or the far western part of America, or the southern part of Asia, or so on. And so that is a good example. She's one of my, examples of someone who decided to push against what society says. And so for me, those are the first 2 things that are non-negotiable in being bold. As I move forward and I talk about leadership, I think the next point that I would like to share is make up in your mind that you want to move from that A to that B, wherever it is. And so it's a mindset. You have to believe that you can do it. And the first thing for me is, and again, my faith is important, but then faith without action is dead. And so it's so funny. My husband sometimes considers me a dreamer, and many folks early on in my life, not quite as much anymore. And actually now it's so funny because now people say, Dana, what's next? But early on, I would share with people Coming out of Los Angeles, California, I was exposed to the entertainment industry early on. It's Hollywood, right? It's the land of opportunity as it relates to entertainment. And so we moved to the Midwest and or the South, and I was in Texas as a young mother, just my son and my husband, my high school sweetheart, stayed at home. And I had a dream, and I would tell my husband all the time, I'm going to do TV. And I would actually even tell my mom that I'm going to do TV one day. Now, we're in Texas, and at the time, it was only Walker, Texas Ranger, and so there's not a lot of cameras out there in Texas, and I'm still here. But, you know, I would just kind of put that out in the atmosphere. And they would go, yeah. Well, one day I was at home, and I was watching the show. At the time, it was Good Morning Texas. And they were looking for mothers. It's interesting. It's funny. When you put things out there, things will come to you. But they were looking for mothers who had, you know, young children that wanted to do a segment at the time called Mom Squad. And they wanted you to send in an audition tape and share some sort of interesting fact about you as a mom. So I quickly put together a little video, and I sent it in. Via VHS tape at the time, and I only shared with them how I would take $20 and I would split it up and have a day out with my children. So for me, that was going to the movies, 50-cent show, and then we did some Happy Meals, and we ended at the park. And I made it fun, exciting since then, and then got a call back from the producers. Long story, fast forward, I ended up doing a year and a half with them, which was my first. I was like 23 years old, which is my first experience with TV. Now, because it was my first experience, both my mom and my husband used these words to me. They said, "You were just lucky." Now, I proved them that there's no such thing for me as luck. It's all about that faith. But that's what they told me. But the point that I wanted to make is that I at least tried, because I had something that I wanted to do at that time. And at that time, I wanted to do some TV. And so I sent the audition in. I decided that I could do this. I never had television experience. I didn't go to school for acting. You know, I didn't get coached on the way I didn't know how I should look or how I should act or how I should talk. I just was Dana, you know, at that time. And I sent it in, and they loved me. They loved me. And so I got to do all type of segments on clearance shopping. At that time, didn't have any money, so that was my experience. I got to do things like, learning how to, or sharing with people my experiences. At the time, was with, being with my in-laws and how relationships worked out there, as well as some other cool things. And so you have to believe in yourself, no matter how far-fetched that dream is. In fact, so much so that a couple of years later, I had another opportunity to do a television show. And this time, I didn't even mention it to my husband, because remember, he thought it was luck, and he's not necessarily working against me, but at the time, I just didn't want to hear that. So I had contacted this network. At the time was Fine Living Network, and they were considered a nationally syndicated network all over the world with various shows, i.e. Martha Stewart was on that show. And they were looking for girls who were working girls at the time. And at that time I had gone to work. And they wanted to highlight your experience while you traveled. So I called the producer, I sent in an email, and the producer called me, and I told them my story, shared with them just my background and what I did on the TV show. They said that I had any other friends who would want to be a part. I got together some friends. Fast forward, I was at home. I got the text or email from the producers. They said, listen, not only did they like your story so much, they want to have you come in, and they've already decided they're going to film you and your friends. And by the way, if your show is really good, they're going to put you on first. Well, I showed my husband this email, and he goes, wow, how did that happen? And so I think you get the point of the story, is that it wasn't luck for me. It was, not only did I believe in myself early for that dream, that far-fetched dream, and sometimes your dreams can be a little weird to other people, because, I was a business, or at that time I hadn't really started business yet, but I was supposed to be slated to start business and have this serious life and, not necessarily, go do some TV shows. And so sometimes your dreams are a little bit far-fetched. And so you don't share them with people. You just kind of let them know after it happened. And that's kind of what I did with those closest to me. So anyway, long story short, we got a chance to do that. The producers loved us. They put us on first. So again, remember, make up your mind, decide that you want to move forward, and then set your goals. The next thing that I want to share would be, and I'm just going to my notes here, is you have to not only move forward, but you have to know where you want to go. Now, that's all about your purpose. You have to know your destination in moving from point A to B. Where's your B? Where are you trying to go? And while I would like to say that I knew that as a little girl, I had these wild dreams, but I didn't quite know the destination along the way. As I kind of moved towards, just kind of started at least moving, making up my mind to move, it became a little clearer where I wanted to go. And so today, I'm very clear on my destination, i.e. my purpose. And for me, and along with my husband, who I'm still married to after 26 years, it's to, one, build wealth. And what I mean by that is that I don't just necessarily mean being rich. I mean building wealth, being able to have the freedom to do the things that I am called to do. You say, well, Dana, what are you called to do? I am called to help others now. Today, it's my calling is now to help others move from point A to point B. And then lastly, it's for me, it's all about, and it kind of goes with our my purpose of building wealth. It's also bringing forth the message of love. That is very important to me. Not just building wealth for myself and my family, but also bringing forth the message of love towards other people, for other people, to be inspired by, as well as to experience. It's not fun getting to your destination and having it by yourself, that feeling of nirvana, without sharing it with others. And so by sharing my experiences with others, that's my way of showing love. And so that's also important. The next thing that I want to share that I believe is important is along that destination, I call it failing correctly. Now, after my husband and I moved to Texas in 1993, he had a dream to open up a restaurant. We were 24 years old, no experience in the restaurant business, no background in terms of our family. In fact, my husband hadn't even worked at McDonald's ever in his life. Okay, I at least had worked at McDonald's at 16 years old, but he had never even worked at McDonald's. And so he had a dream to open up a restaurant, and he pulled me along with him. At the time, we only had our one son, and so it was doable. And so without any experience, he kind of came up, he had a business partner at the time, and together they came up with this idea that they would open a restaurant. And so they opened up this restaurant in the partnership. The partner was a former professional football player, so he kind of had his money insured. But my husband, he had just good credit, and I had good credit. And so together we used our good credit at 24 years old. We hadn't made any bad decision yet that would cause our finances to be that bad. And when I say that, and I'll tell you about that later, but we opened up and co-signed this restaurant. Now, we opened up and we have this awesome grand opening. Folks from around the community came to welcome us in this awesome endeavor at the time. And sadly, we opened, operated, and closed it in 8 months. Now, I'm actually now at our current office, but I think it'll be a fun time just to show you this was what came out then, and I don't know if you can see it, but that's my this is my husband, and that's the wife of our business partner, and that's me in the middle. And this was you can see it. I'll kind of come in a little bit closer, but this is what was published that particular time. Now you probably see Cowboys quarterback. That was our partner. So I guess he was a professional football player, and I think you can tell those fat cheeks. I was 24 years old, and my husband and I kind of ran that restaurant along with the wife. But we owned, operated, and closed it in 8 months. Now, after it closed, I continued to stay home with my son. My husband went on unemployment, and it got bad. It got really, really bad. So bad that about a year later, as we were trying to hold it together with unemployment and little odd jobs, we had a constable. I don't know if you know what a constable is, but a constable are those official representatives that come to your home to collect whatever you have to collect. Now, given where we were in the stage of our life, there was nothing to collect. And so it was a very short conversation, but it was a bad conversation because that's the point in our life where finances really, really got bad. And oh, by the way, I found out that I was pregnant with my second child, which is also a blessing. But at the time, it seemed pretty tough. We almost we didn't quite go into foreclosure yet, but we had gotten threatened with foreclosure. Lots of things that happened in the middle. But what do I mean by fail correctly? We decided at that time that we would learn from our experiences. Yes, you should move forward and have your mindset. But because things are not always the way that we would like them to be, sometimes we fall along the way. But when I say fail correctly, the key is, what do you learn while you're in that position? And there are numerous lessons that we learned in that situation. Lesson number one for us is that we had no experience. And so we realized that the next time that we wanted to go into business, that we would get a little bit more of information about what we wanted to do. We also realized that we wanted to get up off the ground quickly. And while it was tough, while it was humiliating, and while there was several years of recovery, and sometimes it's different timelines for different people, we just wanted to make sure as we move forward in getting knowledge from others, which I'll talk about that next, but making sure we got knowledge first for ourselves. And so I actually went back to school and got my master's after I had my second child, and was able to get, I went and applied for some financial aid and was able to get a full scholarship to get my master's in accounting. In the meantime, my husband was able to go back to corporate America, or go to corporate America and work for Blue Cross Blue Shield, where he worked for 5 years, and he got the knowledge that he needed to go forward, okay? And so what did we do in going forward? The next thing we did was we learned to ask for directions. And that was the mentorship I was talking about. While he was in Blue Cross Blue Shield, he was able to get a mentor at the time who he's still friends with today. Doesn't talk as much to him now, but talks to him once in a while on what did it take to lead a business. Now, yes, it was in corporate America, but it was there that he was able to learn more about leadership and the skills that he needed to run business. Likewise, while I was in graduate school, I was able to get the additional knowledge, learning how to properly run a business, financial acumen that you need to run a business, and then surround myself with others in the community. I took tons of leadership professional development workshops to mentor up to people who were in places that I wanted to be. And I apologize for that, because that's a call coming in there. But anyway, to mentor people, mentor from people that was where I wanted to be. And so, again, leadership professional development workshops, getting the knowledge that I needed to, placing myself around just solid people who I knew I could trust, who had my best interests at heart, was all about, for me, asking for directions. There's a great proverb that says, iron sharpeneth iron. And so sometimes, even as you think about the process of iron and sharpening iron, it can be a tough situation. It can be cutting because you're trying to prune and develop yourself such that you can be better, and it can be humbling because sometimes you have to get in places that you don't want to get to. Change can be hard. And so for me, it was a season of humbling myself. It was a season of pruning. And by the way, I believe that asking for directions and mentorship is something that you should do for the rest of your life. And so even as you get to your one destination, you decide that you want to go to the next destination, my advice to you is to, you'll hear the term mentor up. But I also would like to say there's nothing wrong from learning from people from mistakes. Everyone wants to say, well, just, get with those who are higher than you. I'll never forget someone opened a restaurant that was in my close proximity. They could have easily asked us what we did wrong, but they did not. And I guess they felt like, oh, well, they were failures. Why would we ask them? They go open a restaurant and it didn't last a year either. And so don't feel like you can't learn from others and their mistakes. And so while asking for directions is key, sometimes people can tell you to not go in a certain place. And so that's the next point. Next thing I want to share with you that I think is just as important is enjoying the journey from that A to B. I know when you are trying to achieve your dreams, push forth your goals, sometimes, along the way, you'll meet these very serious people and they forget to just relax and enjoy the journey along the way. So for me, I actually make that a priority. I love to swing dance. I love to travel with my husband. I love a good horror flick or a movie flick to go. I go to movies every Tuesday. And even this week, we got the state fair coming, and we're planning a family outing this Thursday, myself and my family and my husband, to go to the state fair while they're in town. And so we don't apologize for that. We enjoy the journey. We have fun. It's nothing to me exciting, and I think you would ask any leader that is in a particular position, even if they have a $20-30 million company, you have to learn to enjoy the journey. And for you, it may mean something differently for me, but for us, it's learning to laugh. It's learning to enjoy those around us. It's learning to rest and not feel as if every moment has to be occupied with moving that goal forward. Of course, you must time manage. There's a balance between how much fun you have as well as how serious you are in moving your goals forward. And what that balance is for you is probably, it will be different for you as it is for me. But you find the right balance, but just make sure you enjoy the journey along the way. And then last, but certainly not least, in terms of points that I think are important, is making sure that you look back often to see where you are in your destination station, moving that from that point A to B, making sure that you're making progress. Okay, it would be horrible to think you've moved even, an inch from A to B, and you look up and you're still in the same place. And so the last point I would say is assess where you are. Ask yourself, is it reasonable in terms of where I am and moving boldly from point A to point B, or am I making progress or not? And if not, you're not making it in the manner that you would like to, talk to someone. Go back to that mentorship. See what's reasonable. ask yourself, have you set the right goals? Have you properly planned? Okay, have you failed correctly, or are you constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again where you're still in that point A? And have you asked directions? Are you all trying to do it by yourself? And if you have found that you've employed all those, you should definitely be making progress. And so hopefully you have learned something that I have shared with you today. Again, my husband and I together, we have had the opportunity to fulfill many of our dreams. We own a real estate company, ProLand Properties. We own over 15 properties that we manage, and sometimes we sell, sometimes we rent. We also have a medical distributions company that we run. That's where I am right now. Here's the awesomeness of falling correctly and moving forward and failing correctly, is that if you don't give up and you continue, that you can still fulfill many of your dreams. And so here, what you're seeing is a nomination by Black Enterprise. We were chosen and selected for Ram Surgical to be the Small Business of the Year. And so we were so excited. This was so that was about 15 years later, okay? But don't give up, okay? Because again, nothing changed. We're still those, South Central Los Angeles kids. We still, we didn't come into any money, but we failed correctly, and we continue to move forward with our mindset. So just remember that. And then we have the opportunity to travel together and do some of the things that we enjoy together, as well as enjoy our 3 children, who, by the way, I didn't talk about my 3rd children, but I'm very proud. 20-something years later, my son has just taken his bar exam. That one young man that I was talking about in 1992 has now completed his bar exam. That second child that I was talking about that I was pregnant with after we lost our business is now studying for medical acceptance into medical school. And she'll hear back on this Tuesday, which is in October of 2018. She'll hear back on her results. So we're very proud of her as she's graduated with honors. And then my last young sweetheart that I didn't get the chance to mention in my story is a senior in college who we're also equally proud of. And so again, that's part of our destination station. Our fulfillment, again, it's all about, for us, the power of love. It's important for me also to continue to build wealth for our family. So thank you. I've enjoyed being a part of the Success and Fulfillment Digital Conference, and hopefully you have been able to get at least one thing from my sharing. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Hi, I'm Kim Warren Martin, and I'm the founder of Successful and Fulfilled, where our mission is to help women to embrace the courage I know you already have to step out of your comfort zone and live life the way you want to live, not just the way you're expected to live. It's not about leaving your job, your family, or school, or any of that. It's about launching into what I call the #undeniable_you. So if you want to be a part of a mastermind and enjoy the type of training and support you're receiving now, where experts talk about components of self-mastery, business principles, and wealth building, if you're looking to make sure you're connected to a resource that is all about supporting you to live a successful and fulfilled lifestyle, come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. I want to meet with you to make sure it's a good fit. If you want to be a part of this movement of individuals dedicated to not only the emotional state of happiness, but also the soulful state of fulfillment, I invite you to a private conversation to make sure you learn more about us and we learn more about you. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. It is a great way for me to learn more about what you want to be successful, about what you need to be fulfilled, and what's most important to you in your life. This is a highly customized membership, so we are very selective. And so I want to meet with you to be sure it's a good fit for both of us. If you're ready to share your talents, your skills, your treasure, your expertise so someone else can live a successful and fulfilled life, this is the place to be. Maybe you want to share your story, or maybe you're called to serve others. If you want to collaborate, network, and connect with a group of women who have this one guiding belief: you don't have to sacrifice your success for fulfillment, nor do you have to sacrifice your fulfillment for success. You can #have it all, as long as you're the one who defines what it all is. So I invite you to come over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com. Make sure you register and I'll see you there. Now you may be wondering, why do I care? Why do I do what I do? Well, my big why is to help women all over the world live life the way they want to live, the way they're called to live, the way they're created to live, the way they're purposed to live, and the way they're destined to live, not just the way they're expected to live. George Washington Carver said, "No individual has any right to come into the world and go out of it without leaving distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it." Growing up, I was absolutely convinced that singing and dancing on Broadway and being in movies in Hollywood were my distinct and legitimate reasons for being here. I could already see my name in lights and experiencing the costume changes, etc., etc. I even planned to go to performing arts school for college, but was waiting on the perfect time to announce it to my parents. Now, when I was a senior in high school, my parents invited me into the living room one night because they had an announcement of their own. They said that according to the Wall Street Journal, engineering and computing careers would be some of the top careers of the future. So because I was the oldest and because I was a role model, they were going to send me to engineering school. Now, all I could think of, my 18-year-old self was just like, how am I going to get an Oscar at engineering school? Literally, I felt like my entire life rested on that moment. Now, no amount of respectful rejecting could change their mind. So I went to school. I went to engineering school, and 2 years and 8 months later, I came out with a Bachelor of Science degree. Yes, I did, in a short time. And what I thought I had was my freedom. I thought that paper gave me my freedom and would please my parents. But I got a job, a real job. The money got good. I got promoted. The perks were awesome. I did well. And I was a wonderful role model, and my sisters followed closely in my footsteps. So there I was, a very artsy, analytical person in a scientific, technical world. And someone realized that about me, called me up one night, and invited me to run the Women's Initiative for this multinational corporation. So my role was to help women get to the top on the technical side and on the business side. So I thought about it a couple of days, and I said yes. And I did that globally. And I was literally told I changed the face of the corporation. One day I was working with a woman who actually told me no. She didn't want to get to the top. Now, I was absolutely shocked, but deep inside, I totally understood her. And all I could hear was my dream asking me, you know, Kim, you spent all this time helping all these women get to where we want them to be, but you never stop to ask yourself, where do you want to be? I had completely lost sight of my dream. And at that moment, I realized that the only thing the role model in me was demonstrating was how to live life the way I was expected to live, not the way I wanted to live. I was successful, yes, but I was unfulfilled. And for me, that was a defining moment. You see, I still love the arts, but what I realized is that the singing, the dancing, the acting were more about freedom for me, not entertainment. Freedom of expression, freedom of being, freedom of doing. And working with women all over the world, I have come to realize that every woman was born to live in a soulful state of fulfillment. And ladies, we can do it because fulfillment is not a fantasy, it's a formula. And what I do know is I am not alone. There are other women out there like me who want to live a successful and fulfilled life. So is that you? If so, here's what I want you to do. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com and let's have a conversation. I really, really look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Welcome to this broadcast of the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. I'm Kim Warren-Martin. I'm glad to be here, and I'm certainly glad you're here as well. Our trainer today is RiTika Rose, owner of RiTika Rose Therapy for Your Soul. Through her career journey in rehabilitation medicine, high-level management, and private practice, this phenomenal woman has made it her mission to help people embrace their truth and stay conscious of their authentic selves. She's known to help her clients break through their challenge and gain immediate results in one session. Imagine what life has in store when obstacles are overcome, when your peace of mind is secure, and you can finally live a life that feels free, authentic, and meaningful. Well, imagine no more. Let's bring out RiTika Rose, best-selling author of Tag Your It, Become the Leader of Your Own Life, as she trains on integrating your truth for total life fulfillment in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, ladies, and welcome back to the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. My name is RiTika Rose, and I am honored to be here this evening to talk about integrating your truth for total life fulfillment. I am a life solutions expert, the best-selling author of Tag Your It, Become the Leader of Your Own Life, and most importantly, I consider myself a human advocate. I own a integrative life coaching and healing practice here in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, where I work with my clients to heal the mental anguish that comes with navigating the various seasons of life. I help them to overcome difficult life transitions and challenges they're facing that may result in a loss of oneself or a loss of purpose and direction in how to move forward in life. I work with them to align, balance, and integrate 7 key areas of life to make sure that they're able to move forward in a direction that feels passionate, purposeful, and peaceful to them. These are actually 7 key areas that I learned to embrace and balance and align when I was going through my own life transitions back in 2011, which I'm going to share with you in just a few moments. Prior to running my healing and coaching practice here in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, I come from a rehab medical management background. I've been practicing as an occupational therapist with a background in psychology for the last 20 years. I still do practice as an occupational therapist on call, but prior to running my own practice, I was working in high-level, high-stress rehabilitation management. So for the women here on the call that are working in similar aspects in their careers in high-level management, high pace, high-level stress, I see you, I get you, I know you. If you, for some reason, are feeling or questioning your purpose, meaning, and value in life right now in your current position or in life in general, I see you, I get you, I know you. I was there once too. In fact, my culture credo is, I see you, I get you, I know you. My job truly is you. You are not alone. Allow me to help you see yourself. And it is this aspect of seeing yourself and really embracing yourself, which is your truth and your integrity. And it is this truth and your integrity in all aspects of life that are going to help you to feel successful and fulfilled in all areas of your life. I want to speak to the women on this call today in 3 different aspects. As I've already mentioned, if you are a woman that is working in a high-level position, I understand what you're going through. If you're feeling this lack of purpose and meaning and just trying to find the answers or gain the clarity around, your life purpose today, I understand what you're going through. I was there once too, until I really stepped into a practice of personal and spiritual development and a daily practice of meditation, which allowed me to understand deeper these 7 key areas of life that we're going to go over here in just a few minutes. And it was aligning myself to the truth and integrity in these areas of life that allowed me to feel a sense of deep peace, strength, and power that I feel today. If you are a woman that is stepping into entrepreneurship or is currently an entrepreneur, I see you, I get you, I know you. I am an entrepreneur. I am someone that left my full-time day job, a very successful job, mind you. I was very successful in a powerful leadership role as a woman, making good money, living a good lifestyle, surrounding myself with friends and social life that I felt was fulfilled at that time. But I left that to jump into my own practice to serve and heal the world and to feel it in a way that I feel called to do, which has allowed me to step into feeling more fulfilled in my life and more successful in my life overall, because I know I am doing and walking a path that I am meant to do, walking in my full purpose. So I see you, I get you, I know you. If you are someone that is wanting to take a step into entrepreneurship and start a business of your own, or is already there, I know what it takes to feel fulfilled and successful in these areas, not just fulfilled for yourself in the business that you're running, but making sure your clients are fulfilled as well. And lastly, if you're a woman on this call who has for some reason in life experienced anything that has made you feel less than, that has had you step out of your power and your truth for any reason at all, I see you, I get you, I know you. I was a young girl that was bullied from the 4th to 12th grade. I understand what it's like to go to school and not have anybody to talk to or feel like you have any support around the school system, but still having to stand strong and stand in your power and stand in your strength and your purpose when you're there as a child and overcome the day-to-day challenges that you're going through being bullied. And also coming home and not having anybody to talk to or support you there. So if you're someone that went through that at a young age, I understand and I get you. If you're a young woman or a woman now that has ever been harassed or assaulted in some way, I've been there too. I see you, I get you, I know you. You haven't asked for it, it wasn't your fault. Don't let someone else who felt like they needed to take control of their life in some way take the power away from you. And lastly, I've also been someone that has been verbally and emotionally abused for being a woman in high power and in leadership from men that could not handle or felt less than in themselves from taking direction or supervision or leadership from a woman that was in higher power than them. So I see you, I get you, I know you. My goal is to build a lifestyle of conscious self-leaders, and self-leadership to me comes in 2 parts. One, it's helping my clients and helping people to recognize their personal value and really help you to step into that value and step into the power and the truth of who you are. That is self-leadership. And being conscious of who you are and what you give to the world. And then in turn being conscious of others and who they are and what they give to the world. And 2, self-leadership comes from effective self-care and self-awareness. The more we take care of ourselves, the more we can care for others. And the more that we're aware of ourselves, the more that we can be aware of others. And in turn, be effective leaders, not just for ourselves, but for our communities, our families, and our coworkers, and the organizations around us. My mission is your self-care is your healthcare, and through self-awareness comes self-healing. And now I'd like to step into these 7 areas of life that I spoke about a little bit ago. And as I talk with you through them, I want you to reflect for yourself these areas and really ask yourself, are you standing in your power and your truth and integrity in all of these areas of life? Is there any one of these areas are out of alignment for you, then some life is not flowing at its optimal level either. And that's where we tend to feel the lack of fulfillment, the lack of success overall. Or sometimes that's when we're not feeling aligned or balanced or fulfilled or successful in life, other behaviors tend to come up like anger, fear, frustration, depression or anxiety or pain, and not knowing how to get through it and move through it, and just feeling stuck, lost, and confused in life. So I'd like to help you reflect on these 7 areas and ask yourself some of these questions, and as I walk you through them, and then I'm actually going to have you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being a high level of integrity and truth in these areas, and 1 being a low level of integrity. And be honest with yourself. be honest with, do you need work in some of these areas? Do you need to reflect on some of these areas more in life? Do you need, would you benefit from mentorship and coaching in some of these areas? Or are they functioning at a good level for you? So to help you with the reflection of this area, I'm going to take myself off the screen and put in a more of a meditative, reflective thought screen to help you sort of go through these areas with you. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to take myself off the screen and switch it into a more peaceful photo for you as I walk you through these areas. So hopefully you can see the screen now. And the first area I'd like to go over with you is how rooted and grounded you're feeling to life today. How rooted and grounded and balanced is your life experience today? Sometimes when we're not feeling rooted or balanced, it could be a family matter or a financial matter that's holding us back from feeling fully grounded. So ask yourself, how are your relations with your family? Are you walking into these relationships expressing yourself truthfully and in full integrity? Are the relationships you're keeping with your family in full integrity? Is there anything that you need to work on or anything that's not serving you or more that you need to embrace within your family relationships? And how are your finances? Are you getting paid what you're worth? Do you need to ask for a raise? Do you need to give yourself a raise? Is the work that you're providing for others being financially provided back to you? Is there an equal exchange for the work that you do and for what you're getting back? And if not, what can you do to gain the alignment that you need in these particular areas? 2, how creative and productive are you feeling in both your personal and career life? Are you surrounding yourself with people that allow you to express yourself creatively and allow you to be the most productive in your life? Do you have people in your life that are supportive of you in all areas and allow you to be yourself fully and truthfully? Are you allowed to express yourself creatively and be the most productive in your work area of life? And if the answer is no, or you're questioning any of these areas, what can you do to enhance the creativity, abundance, and productivity in any areas of your life? What support do you need to ask for? How can you express yourself more creatively? How can you be more productive? What is the truth of your creativity? And what is the truth of the level of productivity you'd like to see for yourself and the world around you? 3rd, how powerful and in control are you feeling of your life today? What is your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-will? Is there anything that's taking away your power? Is there anything that you don't feel control of? What can you let go of and detach from in order to not have control over so many things and only be in control of the things that are right in front of you and that are of importance right now? Are you embracing the compliments and the acknowledgements that others are giving you? Are you really seeing yourself for the value of who you are and what you give to the world? How can you step more into your truth and your power and just be fully yourself? to express love, forgiveness, empathy, and compassion to not just yourself, but to others around you? Do you truthfully express yourself, truthfully express love, truly express empathy and compassion and forgiveness? Or are you holding any of this back? Do you truly love, empathize, and forgive yourself? And do you truthfully allow other people to love, forgive, empathize, and be compassionate with you? Fifth, are you truthfully expressing yourself in communication? Are you holding back any communication from others? What is it that you're not able to express? What can you express more of? Holding anything back and holding any emotions or any communication will most definitely throw us off balance. And are you truthfully allowing people to communicate themselves to you? And allowing people to truthfully express themselves to you in a way that is truthful to them? Sixth, are you following your inner truth? Your inner knowing, your inner knowledge? Are you following your intuition? Are you in self-doubt? Do you overanalyze decisions when they need to be made? Are you forgetting the truth of who you are and the power of decisions and the knowing that you already have? And are you embracing the knowledge and the information that comes to you from outside sources to help you make these decisions? You don't have to do everything on your own. So are you embracing the support of others truthfully? And lastly, and this is a very personal area for most people, but what is your spiritual beliefs? Do you have one? Do you not have one? Do you believe in a higher power? Do you not believe in a higher power? And are you in integrity with what your spiritual beliefs are? It doesn't matter what they are, but are you walking in full integrity with what they are and what your practice is? As you reflect on these areas and you rate yourself from 1 to 10, consider what support you may be needing more of in your life in some of these areas. At the end of this call, you'll be receiving a free chapter from my book on truth. That chapter may be able to help you reflect a little bit more. And you'll also be getting a bonus free 15-minute coaching session with me to schedule a time to talk about any of these areas that you feel like you need more support or guidance on. As you take an average of the ratings of these 7 areas, take a look at the number. The higher the number, the more in integrity you are and more in integrity, more in flow you are with these areas of the life. And the more fulfilled you may be feeling in your life. The lower the number, the more unfulfilled or lost or confused you may be feeling in how to move forward in particular areas and direction of life. So what I want to leave you with today is the importance of standing in your truth and your integrity. When you're not standing and living through your truth, the soul cannot be free. And when the soul is not at free, neither can we feel free. And neither can we feel fulfilled. And neither can we feel successful in any areas of our life. So I invite you to please click the link that will be provided for you. Please enjoy the free chapter on truth. Embrace yourself for all that you are, all the gifts that you give to the world. understand that you are a unique creation and only you can provide what you provide, and only you can do what you do, and only you can be who you are. Accept all of you. Embrace the gifts and truth that you have to give to this world, and start walking in the truth in these 7 areas of life, and start integrating more peace, more power, and more strength. I wish you much success and fulfillment in life, and I look forward to hearing back from you, from those of you that would embrace the free coaching call that will be offered for you at the end of this call. I thank you, and I wish you a good evening with gratitude.
Hi, I'm Kim Warren Martin, and I'm the founder of Successful and Fulfilled, where our mission is to help women to embrace the courage I know you already have to step out of your comfort zone and live life the way you want to live, not just the way you're expected to live. It's not about leaving your job, your family, or school, or any of that. It's about launching into what I call the #undeniable you. So if you want to be a part of a mastermind and enjoy the type of training and support you're receiving now, where experts talk about components of self-mastery, business principles, and wealth building, if you're looking to make sure you're connected to a resource that is all about supporting you to live a successful and fulfilled lifestyle, come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. I want to meet with you to make sure it's a good fit. If you want to be a part of this movement of individuals dedicated to not only the emotional state of happiness, but also the soulful state of fulfillment, I invite you to a private conversation to make sure you learn more about us and we learn more about you. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. It is a great way for me to learn more about what you want to be successful, about what you need to be fulfilled, and what's most important to you in your life. This is a highly customized membership, so we are very selective. And so I want to meet with you to be sure it's a good fit for both of us. If you're ready to share your talents, your skills, your treasure, your expertise, so someone else can live a successful and fulfilled life, this is the place to be. Maybe you want to share your story, or maybe you're called to serve others. If you want to collaborate, network, and connect with a group of women who have this one guiding belief: you don't have to sacrifice your success for fulfillment, nor do you have to sacrifice your fulfillment for success. You can #have it all, as long as you're the one who defines what it all is. So I invite you to come over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com. Make sure you register and I'll see you there. Now you may be wondering, why do I care? Why do I do what I do? Well, my big why is to help women all over the world live life the way they want to live, the way they're called to live, the way they're created to live, the way they're purposed to live, and the way they're destined to live, not just the way they're expected to live. George Washington Carver said, "No individual has any right to come into the world and go out of it without leaving distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it." Growing up, I was absolutely convinced that singing and dancing on Broadway and being in movies in Hollywood were my distinct and legitimate reasons for being here. I could already see my name in lights and experiencing the costume changes, etc., etc. I even planned to go to performing arts school for college, but was waiting on the perfect time to announce it to my parents. Now, when I was a senior in high school, my parents invited me into the living room one night because they had an announcement of their own. They said that according to the Wall Street Journal, engineering and computing careers would be some of the top careers of the future. So because I was the oldest and because I was a role model, they were going to send me to engineering school. Now, all I could think of, my 18-year-old self was just like, how am I going to get an Oscar at engineering school? Literally, I felt like my entire life rested on that moment. Now, no amount of respectful rejecting could change their mind. So I went to school. I went to engineering school, and 2 years and 8 months later, I came out with a Bachelor of Science degree. Yes, I did, in a short time. And what I thought I had was my freedom. I thought that paper gave me my freedom and would please my parents. But I got a job, a real job. The money got good. I got promoted. The perks were awesome. I did well. And I was a wonderful role model, and my sisters followed closely in my footsteps. So there I was, a very artsy, analytical person in a scientific, technical world. And someone realized that about me and called me up one night and invited me to run the women's initiative for this multinational corporation. So my role was to help women get to the top on the technical side and on the business side. So I thought about it a couple of days and I said yes. And I did that globally. And I was literally told I changed the face of the corporation. One day I was working with a woman who actually told me no. She didn't want to get to the top. Now I was absolutely shocked, but deep inside I totally understood her. And all I could hear was my dream asking me, you know, Kim, you spent all this time helping all these women get to where we want them to be, but you never stop to ask yourself, where do you want to be? I had completely lost sight of my dream. And at that moment, I realized that the only thing the role model in me was demonstrating was how to live life the way I was expected to live, not the way I wanted to live. I was successful, yes, but I was unfulfilled. And for me, that was a defining moment. You see, I still love the arts, but what I realized is that the singing, the dancing, the acting were more about freedom for me, not entertainment. Freedom of expression, freedom of being, freedom of doing. And working with women all over the world, I have come to realize that every woman was born to live in a soulful state of fulfillment. And ladies, we can do it because fulfillment is not a fantasy, it's a formula. And what I do know is I am not alone. There are other women out there like me who want to live a successful and fulfilled life. So is that you? If so, here's what I want you to do. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com and let's have a conversation. I really look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Good day and welcome to this broadcast of the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. I'm Kim Warren-Martin and I am excited for you to hear from today's summit speaker, Nancy Burns. Nancy is the founder and proprietor of Valley Acupuncture. She's an acupuncturist, herbalist, and clinical nutrition specialist who's passionate about longevity and helping her patients live their best life, a long life, a healthy life. She's about treating the whole body, not separate pieces and parts, and about treating it naturally. It's hard to be successful and fulfilled if you're suffering physically, and suffering doesn't care about your age. There are 20 and 30-year-old women who have 60-year-old arteries and organs because of lifestyle and diet. And by the same token, there's 60 and 70-year-old women now who have the arteries of a 20-year-old. When I was growing up, my parents and grandparents treated us with home remedies and mostly natural cures. We've gotten away from that as a society, but with all the side effects of prescription drugs and in general our modern lifestyle, now is the perfect time to rethink how we're treating our bodies and who we trust to help us maintain good health. Longevity is wonderful, but not if your body is not at its healthiest. It's never too early to start living for the long term. So grab your pen and paper and get ready for Nancy Burns as she trains on 4 essentials to aging well in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Nancy Burns, and I'm an acupuncturist, herbalist, and clinical nutrition specialist in San Jose, California. I'm so pleased to be part of the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. Today, I'm going to explore the essentials of aging well and share with you my observations and experiences with my patients. I'm passionate about helping my patients live their best life. That may look different for each individual, and yet there are some common features for all. What drew me to acupuncture in the first place is that it treats the individual as a whole being, mind, body, and spirit, as opposed to a single disease or malady. You are more than a sore back or a problem with digestion. We are not separate pieces, but a connected whole person. There is a connectedness just as our past has brought us to our present. Every decision you made, every experience you have had has brought you to this time and place. Western medicine is just beginning to reconnect the pieces. It is very connectedness which is missing in so many of our lives today, in particular the busy lives of those between the ages of 40 to 60. This is a unique time of life, full of activity and responsibility. No matter what your age is, it's never too late to start making changes in your health. Our lives have become so compartmentalized, we have lost sight of how and why we are doing what we're doing and only trying to deal with what is. Who has time for anything more? Without time to reflect, a health issue and a common solution is to pop a pill and it will be all better. We expect immediate results with little effort on our part. We need a quick cure. We don't have time for anything more. We expect our doctors to give us something to make us better now. The downside is the immediate relief just causes a problem somewhere else. It's so easy to take a pill and then make a change in your life. Newton's third law states, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Consider this every time you take a prescription. You may not notice an immediate reaction, but believe me, it's there. I see the results of my patients' multiple prescriptions, one to solve the reaction from the previous prescription. I often have patients come into my office that are on 5, 6, 8 medications, sometimes 3 blood pressure medicines, a blood sugar, a water pill, and every one of them is making a dramatic change in the body and changing the body's dynamic force. The human body is a complex and interconnected landscape. Your longest and most vital life requires a look at the ways in which everything interacts. This is how traditional Chinese medicine views the body as a whole. Your healthiest life begins with us seeing the big picture. I work primarily with patients 40 to 70 years young. Midlife is a time of transition and opportunity. At this point, we're often sandwiched between aging parents and children. This group is often dealing with unexpected personal health issues like chronic illness, menopause, depression, weight gain, physical decline, and fatigue. Or often we have lifestyle changes, job loss, divorce, empty nest, retirement, and caretaking, either of ourselves, our spouse, our children, or our parents. Is it any wonder that we're seeing an increase of high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, depression, weight gain, and mobility issues? This period is all about redefinition. It can be stressful, scary, and possibly painful, and ultimately fulfilling. I know this from my own personal experience. My story of transition led me to exactly where I am today. After many midlife changes, a divorce after a 30-year marriage, a bankruptcy, menopause, starting a business, and I did this all within a 2-year period. Is it any surprise I eventually was diagnosed with a mysterious autoimmune disease? Remember, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and you better believe it. Stress certainly has a major role in our health. My doctor could not tell me why I had this or even what the exact diagnosis was. There was no thought about, let's get to the bottom of this. Instead, the doctor's answer was steroids and cancer medications to dampen my immune system, which had opened the door for far worse health issues. Well, no thanks. That did not work for me. Suppressing my immune system without addressing the cause made no sense to me, so I declined the treatment, much to my doctor's disapproval. In today's health system, you need to be your own advocate, and it's not easy to stand up to your doctor or ask for another opinion, and then another, until you find out what you need to know. You don't have to agree with your doctor. Instead, I changed my lifestyle dramatically. I learned the hard lesson of how to say no. I slowed my schedule down, started a very low-carb diet, got more rest, and learned to meditate, which was not easy because I have a very busy brain, but it is very beneficial. I also did extensive research and decided to get an advanced clinical nutrition degree. As it turned out, the course of my practice, I decided to incorporate this new knowledge into my business. I realized that it was a real need for this, and I could see that I would be a great help to many of my patients, in addition to helping myself. But so many of my patients just considered their illnesses a sign of getting old. That is not a good answer. In the tradition of TCM, we meet you where you are in life and create a plan that works for you. But we must get to the core of the problem, like peeling an onion. It takes the gift of time, something sadly lacking in our healthcare system. Time for yourself, time to be heard without judgment, time for you to slow down and listen to your inner wisdom. Make the time and take the time versus crashing in front of the TV. I believe in the body's miraculous ability to heal. Traditional Chinese medicine taps into this at a deep level. It has been developed over 5,000 years of observation of the human condition and careful documentation. Traditional Chinese medicine reconnects body, mind, and spirit. Acupuncture removes blockage, which causes pain at both the physical and emotional levels. And this is all done with a common sense approach. We look for the root of the problem, not just the immediate symptoms. We begin with your current state of health and well-being. We explore your personal issues and symptoms, medical history, stressors, medications, supplements, time management, daily schedule, diet, sleep, exercise, relaxation activities, spirituality, what you do for fun, and even your biggest fears, peeling the onion layer by layer. Oftentimes, I have a patient, after a very long intake, give me the one key piece of information as they're walking out the door. Oh, by the way. And it's like, okay, there it is. That's the piece I needed to know. It's amazing how many people are not very connected with their own body. So this is a very new process for many people to really sit and think about these things. We acknowledge where you are now and what your ultimate goal is. Then, what are you willing to do right now to meet that goal? It can be baby steps or big change. We talk about change and how it feels to you. Acupuncture and integrative health addresses many issues like autoimmune disease, like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, fibromyalgia, digestive disorders, Crohn's disease, diarrhea, all sorts of problems with digestion like GERD, your allergies. We address weight management, pain management, and even adrenal fatigue disorder, which is becoming epidemic in the United States today. I've always been very focused on longevity for myself and my interested patients. I had two grandmothers that reached 100 years of age without medicine or prolonged disease. They basically lived until they died. Just lucky? I've always wondered. Was it genetics, lifestyle, diet, stress level? I'd say yes to all four components. Surely they were dealt good genetics. But genetics isn't everything. It really plays less than a 5% role in most disease. Their lifestyle was quite different from ours today because life was very different in the late 1800s to 1990. I had one grandmother born in 1889, one in 1899, and they lived until 1989 and 1999. During this time, there was dramatic change in America, some good, some not so good. But their food was primarily without pesticides, hormones, GMO, processing, packaging, concerns for shelf life, or additives. They ate locally and seasonally. There were no grapes from Chile in the winter or any other time for that matter. Their lifestyle was slower without demands of current times. No commuting, traffic, smog. They were stay-at-home moms that actually stayed at home. They didn't have their kids active in all that we keep our kids busy doing. No schedules, no pressure, no demands, no driving in circles, dropping kids off and picking kids up. I would consider that low stress. Of course, neither of them drove, and they walked everywhere, which is yet again wonderful exercise. They were friends with their neighbors and got together for coffee and conversation or shared dinners in the evening. They were close to their families, both immediate and extended, and spent a good amount of time together. Life was slower, and I would venture a guess that it was more pleasant than life today. They were not torn in many directions and so many demands as we are today. I doubt they fell into bed just to know that they had to get up and start running the race again the next day. I just finished reading the book Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. He traveled the globe for National Geographic to identify the areas where people live the longest and then find out why. He identified 4 areas in the world where people are the longest lived: Sardinia, Japan, Costa Rica, and Loma Linda, California. Guess what he found? Pretty much exactly what I described as my grandmother's lives. That was so interesting to me. They ate healthy, simple food, unprocessed, seasonal, and local. They are very family and community oriented. The elders lived with their children or even grandchildren, and they got together with friends daily. They had purpose in their lives, usually one purpose, not many. For example, one would be a sheep herder, or a cheesemaker, or a carpenter. The women primarily took care of the home and the business of living. They have low stress levels, and most have a spiritual practice. They do not live fractured lives. They are physically active well into their late 90s or early 100s. They walked everywhere and often in very difficult terrain. Is this even possible in today's world? Right now in America, 12% of our population has autoimmune disease. The number of children with ADD, ADHD, and autism is rapidly climbing. There will be an estimated 1,735,350 new cancer cases in 2018 in the United States. These are shocking statistics to me. So what's needed now? I would say the first thing is, is re-education about what is healthy and a new deliberate choices that will improve the health of you and your family. We have been sold a bill of goods by advertising agencies and clever marketing. It's gone on for so long, we accept it as fact. And it's time to learn the truth and make the necessary changes. Wonder Bread does not build strong bones 12 ways. That's something in the late 1950s we heard day in and day out. And advertisers have educated America so incorrectly about what is healthy and what is not. Every step in that direction is a negative step. We need to change that now. I always ask my patients what their ultimate health goal is. Where they are now, what are they willing to do to get there? Some are willing to make dramatic changes, some smaller ones. As they see improvement, we make adjustments along the way. I've had a patient came in to see me who had chronic explosive diarrhea that was just making his life miserable and very difficult to be out in social situations. He'd been to his doctor and they just gave him medicine which didn't do anything. After a long, comprehensive intake, it became very apparent to me that he had late onset Crohn's disease. He had believed he had a gluten insensitivity. And we changed his diet, which was so difficult to re-educate him. He was 75 years old, and 75 years of doing the same thing. This was so foreign to him. But when he stuck with the diet, immediately everything changed. And he would no sooner start to get things resolved and think, well, a little piece of toast would be okay. Well, one piece of toast was fine. Oh, I can do it again the next day. I'm okay still. Well, the next day, he's right back to square one, and we'd have to start all over again. And this went on and on and on until he finally got it. So it's a process, and patience is really important. You just can't give up. It takes a long time to change your habits. And I tell him now, when he goes out, he can't look at the pasta dishes on the menus, or can't eat the piece of bread. Have them send it back if they bring bread to the table. But enjoy the things that you can have. Don't focus on the things you can't. So where do you start? Well, there are 4 essentials to aging well. The first and most important, I believe, is your diet. In America, by the age of 65, 77% of people are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That is shocking. And that is not normal, even though it seems to be the new norm. The health impact of high sugar intake is obesity, male infertility, hypertension, heart disease. It increases small, dense LDL cholesterol. It increases your chance of stroke, increased clotting. Cancer feeds on sugar. Alzheimer's is worse with sugar. Autoimmune issues, depression, anxiety, and acid reflux, a major contributor to esophageal cancer. Joint inflammation and pain, premature aging, because sugar actually damages the proteins in your skin. So, if nothing else, think about your skin and your aging and walk away from the sugar. Nutritional deficiencies from high blood sugar are that it depletes B complex, and B6, if it's depleted, will cause depression. It depletes your omega-3s, which affects your brain dramatically. It depletes magnesium, chromium, zinc, which is a tumor suppressor, and manganese. Cut the sugar out of your diet. And this includes cutting down on fruit, honey, simple carbohydrates, sweets, breads, crackers, wheat. People say, oh, but fruit is healthy. Fruit is sugar. You get the nutrition that is in fruit elsewhere. Fruit is sugar. And we have been really, once again, sold a bill of goods about the benefits of fruit. And I know people love fruit because it's sweet and it tastes good. But fruit is sugar. Fructose, sucrose, glucose are all the same sugar complex. The second thing is managing your stress. This is where acupuncture is very successful. My patients, when they get used to acupuncture, sometimes it takes a couple of times for the body to finally really relax, but they just zone out and go into another place. And they have done studies where mapping brain patterns while people are having acupuncture is the same as monks in deep meditation. So normally people get up with a wonderful sense of well-being after acupuncture. Breathing exercises are another way to manage stress. Just if you feel stressed, if you're in your car, if you're at work, if your kids are making you nuts, you breathe in slowly, a deep breath, 4 counts. Hold it 4 counts. Breathe out through your mouth, 4 counts. That's a very simple thing. Do that 10 times and you will feel remarkably better. Your stress relieved. Meditation is another way to manage stress. And meditation is not the same for everybody. Not everybody can sit silently and meditate. Walking can be meditation. There's dancing. Any kind of repetitive action is meditative. Anytime you do something creative where you feel like you're in the flow and time disappears, that is a form of meditation. And the last thing is develop a resilient attitude. And this is one thing, when they talk to people that live to be 100, they have all said that they've learned to roll with the punches. They don't let life get them down, even with loss of loved ones. They are resilient. They bounce back and know that life is good. And so developing a resilient attitude is very beneficial for managing stress. Manage your exercise is the third pillar. Walking. Walking is probably the best thing you can do. Just getting out and walking. And if you're not used to it, walk down the street and back. Walk around the block. Walk, walk, walk until you're walking 2-3 miles a day. It doesn't take that long, and it's very pleasant to get out and do. You don't have to go somewhere to walk. You can walk in your own neighborhood. It's free and it's easy. Water exercise is another excellent thing. It's non-weight bearing and it's very good for your muscles. So for people that have joint problems, water exercise is an excellent solution. Yoga. Yoga has all sorts of varying degrees of yoga. There is even now seated yoga for people that have trouble getting up and down off the floor. And interestingly enough, in all of these 4 areas that Dan Buettner identified in blue zones, all of these people, 100 years old, are up and down off the floor many times a day. Now, if you can't bounce up and down off the floor, I suggest you think about that. And if none of those appeal to you, find a physical exercise that you do enjoy. Bicycling, jogging, although that's very difficult on your joints. But whatever exercise you enjoy, do it. Tai Chi or Qigong are best for increasing balance and preventing falls. I have my 91-year-old mom doing Tai Chi exercises every morning. I have a tape, and she sticks it in her TV and stands in her family room and does her Tai Chi every morning. And it has helped dramatically with her balance. And we all know that as you get older, a fall can be the end of your life. So exercise is one of the fastest ways to lower blood sugar. When I have patients that have been diagnosed with high blood sugar, I tell them, get out and walk. You don't need to start in on medication. Let's change your diet and get you exercising rather than taking a pill. The fourth pillar is manage your relationships. In the studies of people that reach 100 years of age, close relationships and feeling connected to other people seems to be one of the most important factors. They all consistently said that they were connected to other people. They didn't sit in a house by themselves in front of a TV or propped up in a wheelchair in some home in a assisted living program. They also deal with loss without being overcome by it. So once again, develop your resiliency. Isolation is probably one of the worst factors for your health. In these long-lived areas, the elderly are not put in assisted living facilities. They are part of the family. I know that's not easy. It's not always what you want, but think about it. Someday you're going to be your parents' age, and do you want to be shut away somewhere? Children learn by example. So if they grow up with the idea that this is what we do, taking care of our entire family, then chances are you're going to be taken care of someday. So where do you start? I would say find a healthcare practitioner who is willing to take the time necessary to help you identify what changes you need to make to give you the opportunity to have the longest, healthiest life possible. And it's not just about living a long life, it's about living a healthy life. That's one thing. Neither of my grandmothers took medication. Neither of them had prolonged illness. They, at the most, it was about a month or two of decline and maybe a week of the dying process. But for the most part, their 100 years were very healthy and happy. I have many patients who come in with very complicated health issues and history. Since in TCM, everything is connected, I take a very complete health history, consider blood work and all medications. I believe when the body is working correctly, there's no need for medicine. However, getting to that point is complicated and takes dedication and patience on the part of the patient. Diet and supplements are the first changes we make. As the patient starts feeling better, we work on lifestyle changes, attitude adjustments, and movement of some sort. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but we always focus on the positive. I've seen some amazing changes in patients' health and life in general. I recently started working with a young woman, 26 years old, who has scleroderma. It's an autoimmune disease with a very poor prognosis. Normally, after being diagnosed, the patient has about 10 years because what happens is all the tissue in the body begins scarring, and that includes the organs like the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, and eventually stops working. She was about 8 years into her disease and had given up hope when she came to see me. And I mean, she really had given up hope. We worked on all aspects of her health, making small changes and readjusting our plan as she progressed. We explored her belief system, talked about her history, her family life, things that could have contributed to her health. We re-educated her about healthy food, gave her small assignments each week along with acupuncture, and she also received massage. It was 2 steps forward and 1 back, but she has renewed hope for her future and is considering applying to college to get her degree in psychology because she wants to give hope to others. She feels she's been through something and she has something to offer people. So it's very exciting to see this kind of change. It's been wonderful to share with you my perspective on health and taking control of your future. The Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit is your opportunity to improve every facet of your life. If you'd like more information on my tip sheet for your health and longevity, text Nancy to 408-913-8255. 6963. Good luck and good health.
Hi, I'm Kim Warren Martin, and I'm the founder of Successful and Fulfilled, where our mission is to help women to embrace the courage I know you already have to step out of your comfort zone and live life the way you want to live, not just the way you're expected to live. It's not about leaving your job, your family, or school, or any of that. It's about launching into what I call the hashtag undeniable you. So if you want to be a part of a mastermind and enjoy the type of training and support you're receiving now, where experts talk about components of self-mastery, business principles, and wealth building, if you're looking to make sure you're connected to a resource that is all about supporting you to live a successful and fulfilled lifestyle, come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. I want to meet with you to make sure it's a good fit. If you want to be a part of this movement of individuals dedicated to not only the emotional state of happiness, but also the soulful state of fulfillment, I invite you to a private conversation to make sure you learn more about us and we learn more about you. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. It is a great way for me to learn more about what you want to be successful, about what you need to be fulfilled, and what's most important to you in your life. This is a highly customized membership, so we are very selective. And so I want to meet with you to be sure it's a good fit for both of us. If you're ready to share your talents, your skills, your treasure, your expertise, so someone else can live a successful and fulfilled life, this is the place to be. Maybe you want to share your story, or maybe you're called to serve others. If you want to collaborate, network, and connect with a group of women who have this one guiding belief: you don't have to sacrifice your success for fulfillment, nor do you have to sacrifice your fulfillment for success. You can #have it all, as long as you're the one who defines what it all is. So I invite you to come over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com. Make sure you register and I'll see you there. Now you may be wondering, why do I care? Why do I do what I do? Well, my big why is to help women all over the world live life the way they want to live, the way they're called to live, the way they're created to live, the way they're purposed to live, and the way they're destined to live, not just the way they're expected to live. George Washington Carver said, "No individual has any right to come into the world and go out of it without leaving distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it." Growing up, I was absolutely convinced that singing and dancing on Broadway and being in movies in Hollywood were my distinct and legitimate reasons for being here. I could already see my name in lights and experiencing the costume changes, etc., etc. I even planned to go to performing arts school for college, but was waiting on the perfect time to announce it to my parents. Now, when I was a senior in high school, my parents invited me into the living room one night because they had an announcement of their own. They said that according to the Wall Street Journal, engineering and computing careers would be some of the top careers of the future. So because I was the oldest and because I was a role model, they were going to send me to engineering school. Now, all I could think of, my 18-year-old self was just like, how am I going to get an Oscar at engineering school? Literally, I felt like my entire life rested on that moment. Now, no amount of respectful rejecting could change their mind. So I went to school. I went to engineering school, and 2 years and 8 months later, I came out with a Bachelor of Science degree. Yes, I did, in a short time. And what I thought I had was my freedom. I thought that paper gave me my freedom and would please my parents. But I got a job, a real job. The money got good. I got promoted. The perks were awesome. I did well. And I was a wonderful role model, and my sisters followed closely in my footsteps. So there I was, a very artsy, analytical person in a scientific, technical world. And someone realized that about me and called me up one night and invited me to run the Women's Initiative for this multinational corporation. So my role was to help women get to the top on the technical side and on the business side. So I thought about it a couple of days and I said yes. And I did that globally. And I was literally told I changed the face of the corporation. One day I was working with a woman who actually told me no. She didn't want to get to the top. Now, I was absolutely shocked, but deep inside, I totally understood her. And all I could hear was my dream asking me, you know, Kim, you spent all this time helping all these women get to where we want them to be, but you never stop to ask yourself, where do you want to be? I had completely lost sight of my dream. And at that moment, I realized that the only thing the role model in me was demonstrating was how to live life the way I was expected to live, not the way I wanted to live. I was successful, yes, but I was unfulfilled. And for me, that was a defining moment. You see, I still love the arts, but what I realized is that the singing, the dancing, the acting were more about freedom for me, not entertainment. Freedom of expression, freedom of being, freedom of doing. And working with women all over the world, I have come to realize that every woman was born to live in a soulful state of fulfillment. And ladies, we can do it because fulfillment is not a fantasy, it's a formula. And what I do know is I am not alone. There are other women out there like me who want to live a successful and fulfilled life. So is that you? If so, here's what I want you to do. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com and let's have a conversation. I really, really look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Hi there, I'm Kim Warren-Martin, and I'm excited to welcome you to this broadcast of the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. When it comes to being successful and fulfilled, your physical health is equally as important as your financial health, or more. Do you spend a lot of time looking down at your phone or looking down at your computer? If so, putting your head in that position alone can have damaging effects on your spine long term. And not just yours. What about your children? That's why I invited Dr. Melinda Richardson to join our staff of faculty trainers for the Successful and Fulfilled Digital Summit. Dr. Richardson is a leading authority among chiropractic doctors. She achieves amazing results for her patients and is often the first choice of medical doctors, chiropractors, and other healthcare providers for referring their most challenging patients. I recently heard it said that sitting is the new smoking. Well, if sitting is the new smoking, that makes me a chain smoker. So whether you're an entrepreneur and you sit in front of the computer a lot, or an engineer at a tech company and you sit a lot, or a banker and you sit a lot, or you travel a lot for business or pleasure, it's all the same. The long-term effects of sitting on our spine and overall health can be damaging in more ways than one. So welcome my friend and my personal chiropractor, Dr. Melinda Richardson, as she trains on Posture Works, Spinal Hygiene 101 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Melinda Richardson. Thank you for tuning in to Posture is Queen, Spinal Hygiene 101. I want to welcome everybody who is joining in at this Successful and Fulfilled Summit. This is an exciting time to be inspired, empowered, and educated on how you could take your life, your relationships, your health to the next level. I want to share a little bit about myself. I'm from the Bay Area, San Jose, and I've been practicing chiropractic now for 12 years. And I've been a patient myself. I was debilitated when my daughter was just born a few years after, and I was literally unable to work. I was unable to get up and do anything really. You know, it just was exacerbated by lifting her up from nursing to, you know, changing her to getting her in the crib and in the bathtub, and it just ruined my back and my low back in particular. So I relied on chiropractic, and what I'm about to talk and share with you today about how I revived myself, how I aligned myself and got my health back so that I could be here today and share with you the interesting things that have helped me and hundreds of my patients get their health back. And, it all really started, back when I was in high school as well. I was also really having this sharp pain up in my neck. And I wasn't able to continue being an athlete as well. And I didn't realize that until after I went to chiropractic school that I had a problem up here that wasn't aligned. And it was coming actually from my neck. So I really have a heart for not only women, entrepreneur women, but also their family and their growing children, especially in today's day and age where we have a culture of poor posture while we're looking down at our cell phones and forward at our computer laptops. So I just want to let everybody get situated, get their posture right, get supported, sit up tall, and enjoy this presentation. Why would you consider alternative health care? Well, I get a lot of objections from new patients walking in. Chiropractic is not, the most popular alternative healthcare choice. It's not always, unfortunately, the first choice, but people, they're in pain, they're not getting answers from their doctors, and they just need revival. They need, to get some relief. They need just somebody to listen to them, trying to find the root cause of their problems. And, a common objection would be like, I'm really scared to get adjusted. I'm afraid to see a chiropractor. And I understand, but, there are chiropractors out there that see infants. I see and adjust pregnant women all the way up to late senior ages. In their 80s, 90s. The oldest patient that I've ever had was in El Salvador, and she was 103 years old. And that was a great experience. So it's very safe to get aligned. There's very low force instrumentation. Another common objection is that once you go, you always have to go. And I hear that lots of times. A good chiropractor will have a definite beginning and a definite end to your care. They will educate you with why that is true. They'll use your subjective findings, like I have these symptoms, and now they went from a 10 out of 10, now they're like a 2 out of 10. So they know how to measure. They even know how to measure something more objectively, like an X-ray, where you're actually taking line drawings, and we'll get to that here soon. So let's see, another common objective, I'd say, could be money. Like with everything, it is an investment for your health. Insurance companies, they do cover mostly emergency care or acute care, the beginning stages, maybe even relief care. Unfortunately, they are not set up for your long-term preventative care or the correction that you may or may not need. So it's an investment. If it doesn't cover it, it unfortunately is going to have to come out of your pocket, but they're catching on. They are realizing that it is actually going to be very less expensive for someone to see a chiropractor and get better results in a shorter amount of time with less expense and less money for the insurance companies to pay for sick care. So I want to invite you to and ask you to keep an open mind during this presentation. The whole purpose of this summit is to empower you. And, I really love alternative healthcare because it allows you to feel empowered. You get to choose your care. You decide, what you want to do because it's your investment. You get educated, you do your research. Also, what's cool about alternative healthcare is it does have a natural approach. You know, oftentimes you go maybe to seek care, and the solution for your care would be something, you know, that you have to inject, something that you have to consume. Maybe I'm just trying to think of just the outside in approach. Well, you know, as an alternative healthcare professional, we really focus on that natural ability for your body to heal itself. And we all know about it. It's like, you know, when you cut your hand, you don't even have to think of how to heal itself. It just heals itself. And that's the same power that we're working with as a natural healthcare provider, is that if we can focus on what is the cause, or, you know, what would create natural holistic health, well, we have to look at what are optimal, ideal circumstances for a person to be in to create and duplicate that health. So why is this so important? You know, death in the US, the top 3 causes of death are heart disease, cancer, and medical error. Up to 40% of annual deaths from each of 5 leading US causes are preventable. So we're here to talk about empowerment, prevention. You know, this falls under that category. Nearly 900,000 Americans die prematurely, and this is according to the CDC, you know, meaning that it's preventable. Nearly 75% of all deaths in the United States are attributed to just 10 causes, with the top 3 of these accounting for over 50% of all deaths. So, you know, it highlights over here medical error. You know, I just feel like that we rely on medical when maybe we can look to something before that. I totally respect the medical community. I appreciate them. You know, we're in the #1 country to get medical attention. However, I just may encourage that you could look into a more natural approach before jumping to the more extreme approach. And this is why we're here today. So why a chiropractic? Well, you know, we are licensed and highly skilled professionals. I think this is very eye-opening, since, you know, not a lot of people know the amount of education is required for a chiropractor to be licensed. Well, if you just take a look at, you know, this compared to a medical student hours, our anatomy is strong. Our physiology, we have to know how things work naturally. You know, we're not focused on the sickness of care. So the pathology, you know, it is significant to know what's wrong, but we have to look at how to make that right. And we get a lot of chemistry, obviously, diagnosis. We're really looking at the neurology, because inside the brain and the spine is the central unit, the main electrical system, our central nervous system. And so we're working with the house of that unit. And then we have to analyze x-rays to find out, you know, how are people's postures, how is it decaying or distorting, rotating, bending, etc. We have to study those to know how to fix it. That's our map. You know, we do deal with emotional stress. There is psychiatric and medical. We deal with pregnancy and chiropractic. We also, like I mentioned earlier, we adjust babies. And so, you know, we have, out of our entire course of hours, you know, 4,400 hours. I also bring up how it's a low risk. On our malpractice one, I just did a simple Google search of what is the malpractice for an MD. It ranged from $4,000 to $70,000. For a chiropractor in the first year, it's as low as I've heard in the 200s to at the most 1,700. Why? Because it's safe. It's very, you know, low risk. Not a lot of people have life-threatening events from seeing a chiropractor, and it's like less than 50 ever. What does a chiropractor do? Well, this is a fancy word that I have to teach all of my patients, my community. It boils down to one thing that we do and what we're looking for, actually. And this fancy word is called subluxation. Subluxation. Just think of the word sub means below, lux means light, so it's like a dim light. Your energy's low, your function's low, your performance is low, but also it's really actually describing your arrangement of your bones. If we take a look at what a normal arrangement of bones are, they're aligned, they're not shifted forward or backwards, because when they do get shifted forward or back, degeneration happens, and discs protrude, the nerves get pinched. So going back to the bones, it wears and tears, it decays, it degenerates. There's, extra bones that grow off of the edges of the bones. They could literally smash on the x-ray from just, every day, 40 hours a day, just sitting, slouching forward. So how does this affect the nerves and organs while the nerves are pinched? Well, just think of if you were to step on a water hose, that water just can't get out as efficiently to water this gorgeous plant, this beautiful flower. And so the same can be true for our anatomy, is when there are pinched nerves, that nerve cannot deliver the supply going to an organ such as your heart, tissue, anything, thyroid, your sinuses, your stomach, down to your legs, fingers, toes. What are the long-term effects from misalignment? Well, it'd be like as if you just bought a new car and you never took it in. What could you imagine happening from that? Or you never brush your teeth and, you go in and they have to pull teeth out, there's rotting happening, there's cavities, there's decay. It's true. This law applies to every anatomical part of our body. We have to wash our hair, we have to brush our teeth, wash our face, we have to change our clothes, and this is why it is a lifestyle. It's one to consider. So how does alignment affect your health? I gave you a preview right now, but this photo really hammers it in. And, it just surprises me that so many people get this aha moment when we really break this down. And again, the energy from the brain goes down the spine, out every single nerve to every organ, tissue, and cell in the body. So, ask yourself, do I have symptoms? It's not only pain. When you analyze and dissect what nerve function is, only about 20% of it, a really tiny amount, is going to tell your body pain, you're experiencing pain. But the other 80% is how are you functioning on an organ level? Do you have in your neck and, really poor energy, poor immunity, poor metabolism, thyroid dysfunction, sinus problems, in your upper back, the number one cause of death, your heart. So the nerve that goes to your heart is actually right up here. And what are we doing all day? We are just smashing that nerve going to the heart. Number 4 cause of death, lung problems. So any mid-back tension or, head shift will affect that, or side shifts when we're sleeping, etc. It could affect upper digestion, acid reflux, poor pancreatic function. In the low back, this is very common with women, but we have menstruation problems. I have patients that don't have a menstruation, and when we get them under regular care and look to align their spine, their menstruation returns. You know, I'm not going to make any claims because every body, literally every single body is different. And you have to look at more factors than just physical. You know, but the nerves in the low back, they improve or are affecting the function of fertility. Constipation is really popular, ovarian sensitivities, laying cramps, etc. So look to the spine. We say the posture is the window to how you're functioning. So you really want to take a look and pay attention to that. The heart study here, you know, I mention this because it is the #1 cause of death. And, you know, chances are, you know, somebody with heart disease, you know, 1 out of 4 people are experiencing heart disease and may die from it. According to the Journal of Human Hypertension in March 2007, chiropractic adjustments were better in lowering blood pressure than 2 medications combined. So that was pretty awesome. The medical doctor, George Bakri, said not only does it work, we saw no side effects and no problems. And that's not always the case. You know, it's like flipping a coin. If you go for a procedure, it may or may not work. It could cause other problems. The same with any chemical medications. You know, it may fix one thing, but it's stressing out your kidneys, or it's causing, you know, swelling in the legs, or, you know, just who knows? I mean, Lyrica, you know, they say the #1 side effect for Lyrica is suicide. You know, so we just really have to be careful for, you know, what we're putting in. We have to stay educated. We have to educate our families, and we also have to educate on what we could do instead if that doesn't seem like the best fit for you or for your family members. So what we do as chiropractors, like I mentioned, we have to look for the cause. You know, what are some possible causes? Well, we have physical trauma. Micro trauma could be just sitting down at the computer for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. You know, and we also have just the obvious physical trauma, like this girl falling off the skateboard, or our kids, you know, falling down, a motor vehicle accident. Then we have chemical trauma or toxic trauma to our body. An example of this could be, you know, you see the injections going into our food, but what happens from that is, say the fruit or the meat that you're eating is non-organic. You know, those things might be altered. They might be deficient. They might be injected with, the meat could be injected with hormones. So not only are you, you know, maybe going through any hormone changes, but you're consuming hormones in the non-organic meat. And that could also have an effect on, you know, thyroid function, or, you know, just processing them out near your kidneys can, you know, result in inflammation near there. You know, it can cause headaches. Any exposure to toxins. I know I'm very sensitive to the plug-in scents. I just don't do well with them. I'll sneeze and or just I'll get a headache from it. So, you know, these things can just cause neck tension. And then we have the emotional stress. I mean, just think of how a person stands when they're sad, you know, they're slumped over or stressed out, you know, shoulders up to the ears. You know, maybe they're in a hurry and they're forward, and that can cause a lot of low back pain, as we'll take a look. So check your posture. You know, the green line, as you can see on the screen, is the neutral line. This is a really cool app that I use at my office. It's a posture app. You know, anybody can pay for it. It is a little pricey. So, you know, anybody that comes into my office, I do this on them. And it's a window, you know, it's a window to taking a look to, can we help them? And as we can see with this girl, you know, it looks like, just looking at her straight on, maybe she holds her purse on her, you know, looking at the screen on the right side, and her left side. And then she, you know, she slouches, you know, sometimes people are cold, or, you know, she might have a job at the computer, or she's a young gal, she's looking at her phone. And then what's sad and unfortunate is you take a look at the other photo, and this little boy, you know, he actually has, you know, pretty bad posture himself. You know, if you look at him straight on, he shifted over. I know maybe you can't see it, but his body's really far forward, looking on the side view of him. And we see this when the kids are on the couch, just slumped all the way back, or they're on the tablets and their iPhones. So, you know, carrying their backpacks, or, you know, it's an accumulation of several factors that we have to look at. So checking your posture on this app, what's cool about it is it gives a biophysic analysis. You know, just think, for every inch that your head's going forward from the shoulders, it's adding an extra 10 pounds to it. So 1 to 2 inches, you know, normally physiologically your head might weigh about 10 to 12 pounds, but because it's going 2 inches forward, you know, I see in some instances it's weighing 35 to 50 pounds. And then they wonder, or they want to see, why are they having neck pain, or even to low back. You know, it's such a lot, it's a lot of leverage to keep your head forward. Check your spine, check your curves. A good chiropractor will take images of your spine, so they know where to adjust the subluxations, remember those misalignments, or they'll know how to give you spinal hygiene exercises, or where to, you know, help you fix that curvature. So this is a photo of the neck curve. Looking at the screen, person is looking to their left, or to our left. And as you can see, this case study is over a year, and how far forward the curvature goes. And in the middle photo, it looks like it's near 22 degrees. In the far right photo, it's 30 degrees. Normally, we should see anywhere over 35 degrees for a neck curve, and it's so sad. I mean, everybody, I would say like 99% of the people who come in, they're more like the middle photo to the first photo on the left. And, you know, they're coming in with low energy, like I said, allergies, low back pain. And so when this is off center, you know, it wears and tears the discs. The discs degenerate. Then there's about 4 stages of degeneration. The first one may just look like the very top photo, right under the normal disc. And then, you know, as it progresses into stage 2 or 3, that you'll see bulging discs on MRIs, herniated discs at the worst. And then as we really age, you'll see that the discs get dehydrated and very thin. Even the very bottom bone, you can see how there's osteophytes, and that just means extra bones forming at the edges. And then that just wears and tears on all the tissue around it. You know, disc degeneration is preventable. I do see women and patients over 70 years old who've been getting chiropractic for, you know, several years, and they look better than some 20 to 30-year-olds. Hang on, sorry about that. All right, so the power of a chiropractic adjustment, this says a lot, you know, but I thought, you know, from here we could pick out a few benefits in it. Increased digestion, increased metabolism. I mean, who could not use better metabolism? You know, there's so many people right now trying to lose weight, and there's hormonal balance improvements, and then it also decreases your stress hormones. These are scientifically proven results. It also affects and influences your memory, your fatigue. If you have fatigue, it improves your energy. It also helps with coordination. I always stick with function and performance. You know, an adjustment, you look at all the famous athletes, Olympic athletes, you know, pro football players, MMA fighters, golf player, you know, they invest in their health. They want to perform better, they want to function better, and they get adjusted. So I wanted to jump right into what I have my patients do every day, and just taking a glimpse into it. It's called spinal hygiene. I like to think of it like you're flossing your teeth every day. This shouldn't take you 20 minutes out of your day. It should just be something that you could do, you know, no more than 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. And the very first thing that you should do when you wake up is you reach down and touch your toes, and you hold that for 10 seconds. I didn't put a photo on here, but you want to extend back and hold that for 10 seconds. My favorite one is actually bending side to side, and I'll be seated just at the edge of my bed, and I'll go side to side. Sometimes I'm standing, and then the other one would be rotation, and you just want to rotate your neck and your torso while you do it. You want to bend not just your torso, but your neck as well. And hold each one for 10 seconds, and then really pay attention to how are you moving. You know, you might be moving pretty good this way and then not so good that way. Okay, so you want to have a balanced range of motion with both of them, and hold those, so that the whole purpose of doing the spinal hygiene exercises like this in the morning is, you know, you're stretching out the muscles, the ligaments, but also you're inviting more liquid in between those disc spaces. Remember the bones, they have this little cushion in between them. And when we move in these ranges of motion, it invites more fluid in them to keep that space up and allow the nerve to go to the organs and tissues and body parts at the end of them. Okay, so what I love about, you know, really getting specific and taking films of my patients is that we can give them posture specific exercises. It's not enough to give just take a photo on the outside, because, you know, you just get surprised when you actually are able to see the film. Here on the picture on the left, you can see how this person's spine, maybe on an x-ray, would be shifted to, looks like her right, but her exercise would be, you know, 3 sets going to the left. And then a good chiropractor will follow up with an x-ray, say 3 to 6 months later, to find out how close they are to neutral. And then the exercise on the right, that's a really nice band that you could use. I mean, you know, sometimes I just lean my head over a couch or the bed. You know, you could take a towel and put it behind your head and just hold that for 3 sets of 10 seconds. You know, every spine is different. It's just so important to not really take a cookie cut approach, but you want to get as specific as possible, because not everybody would qualify for both of these exercises demonstrated here. You know, you definitely can find out for sure what direction you should be exercising. What else is unique to what we do as a chiropractic biophysic chiropractor is that we do traction. So, you know, there's 3 things that we implement. There's the exercises specific to your posture, the traction, and the adjustments, number 3. So the second part of traction, you know, we can't really do that without knowing for sure where to place the traction unit. So again, we start with the films. We have to measure the films, and then we have to know exactly where to place that. And, you know, even with just this x-ray, it's ideal to look at the whole spine, not just the neck, for example. You know, I'd say it's more common for people to need this traction unit in the middle of their neck or in the lower neck. The good thing about traction rolls, there's some for kids. I've even just got simple ones made from the water noodles that they sell, just the really skinny ones, and we just cut them up for my daughter and she'll lay on those. So those are just easy ones that you can do, some DIYs. And I just want to leave you guys all with, have good posture in all that you do. I mean, posture is great for health. It's great for prevention, but it's also good. It feels good. It opens up your lung capacity. You could breathe better. You're more presentable. People feel more open to you. They just, they want to do business with you. You bring more energy when your posture's lifted. I just love these old photos of the ladies who really practice good posture, and moms are the best at it. It really is our job to remind our children to stay aligned, sit up. I love how these little kids are here with the books on their head. I mean, do that for fun with the kids, and just, time them for fun, and let them exercise their necks after looking down at the tablet. And when they're taking a break, okay, you have to stand there, for a minute and see if you can hold it there. And it's really good for them to walk around as well with that book on their head, a light book, of course. And then Chin Up Princess, or the crown slips. So I know you guys are all royal, and all you ladies deserve the best. So, keep that head up, keep the head high when, business is tough, when you don't feel good, keep your chin up in all that you do. So my gift to you is I have a complimentary consultation. You could text Dr. Melinda to 408-913-6963. And if you're in the San Jose Bay Area, come visit me, or you could check out my website at chirotrician.com. I also am an advocate for chiropractors, so I like to promote wherever you are. You can find one in your zip code. Just visit www.idealspine.com, and you'll look under Find a Doctor and enter your zip code. If you want to find somebody who practices like me and really takes the time to look at your films and give you specific exercises and traction, and are specific as possible with the adjustment, then you want to go to that website there. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook for any spinal hygiene tips or tricks. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out. I hope you guys are all enjoying the Successful and Fulfilled Summit, and I hope this adds a little bit more to your empowerment tool, and I hope you will consider chiropractic. And if you have any questions whatsoever, or if you just need help finding one, or if you have something specific, please reach out to me. I'm here to help you, and I got your back. I'm Dr. Melinda Richardson. Bye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Kim Warren Martin, and I'm the founder of Successful and Fulfilled, where our mission is to help women to embrace the courage I know you already have to step out of your comfort zone and live life the way you want to live, not just the way you're expected to live. It's not about leaving your job, your family, or school, or any of that. It's about launching into what I call the #undeniable_you. So if you want to be a part of a mastermind and enjoy the type of training and support you're receiving now, where experts talk about components of self-mastery, business principles, and wealth building, if you're looking to make sure you're connected to a resource that is all about supporting you to live a successful and fulfilled lifestyle, come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. I want to meet with you to make sure it's a good fit. If you want to be a part of this movement of individuals dedicated to not only the emotional state of happiness, but also the soulful state of fulfillment, I invite you to a private conversation to make sure you learn more about us and we learn more about you. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com now. It is a great way for me to learn more about what you want to be successful, about what you need to be fulfilled, and what's most important to you in your life. This is a highly customized membership, so we are very selective. And so I want to meet with you to be sure it's a good fit for both of us. If you're ready to share your talents, your skills, your treasure, your expertise, so someone else can live a successful and fulfilled life, this is the place to be. Maybe you want to share your story, or maybe you're called to serve others. If you want to collaborate, network, and connect with a group of women who have this one guiding belief: you don't have to sacrifice your success for fulfillment, nor do you have to sacrifice your fulfillment for success. You can #have it all as long as you're the one who defines what it all is. So I invite you to come over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com. Make sure you register and I'll see you there. Now you may be wondering, why do I care? Why do I do what I do? Well, my big why is to help women all over the world live life the way they want to live, the way they're called to live, the way they're created to live, the way they're purposed to live, and the way they're destined to live, not just the way they're expected to live. George Washington Carver said, "No individual has any right to come into the world and go out of it without leaving distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it." Growing up, I was absolutely convinced that singing and dancing on Broadway and being in movies in Hollywood were my distinct and legitimate reasons for being here. I could already see my name in lights and experiencing the costume changes, etc., etc. I even planned to go to performing arts school for college, but was waiting on the perfect time to announce it to my parents. Now, when I was a senior in high school, my parents invited me into the living room one night because they had an announcement of their own. They said that according to the Wall Street Journal, engineering and computing careers would be some of the top careers of the future. So because I was the oldest and because I was a role model, they were going to send me to engineering school. Now, all I could think of, my 18-year-old self was just like, how am I going to get an Oscar at engineering school? Literally, I felt like my entire life rested on that moment. Now, no amount of respectful rejecting could change their mind. So I went to school. I went to engineering school, and 2 years and 8 months later, I came out with a Bachelor of Science degree. Yes, I did, in a short time. And what I thought I had was my freedom. I thought that paper gave me my freedom and would please my parents. But I got a job, a real job. The money got good. I got promoted. The perks were awesome. I did well. And I was a wonderful role model, and my sisters followed closely in my footsteps. So there I was, a very artsy, analytical person in a scientific, technical world. And someone realized that about me, called me up one night, and invited me to run the Women's Initiative for this multinational corporation. So my role was to help women get to the top on the technical side and on the business side. So I thought about it a couple of days, and I said yes. And I did that globally. And I was literally told I changed the face of the corporation. One day I was working with a woman who actually told me no. She didn't want to get to the top. Now, I was absolutely shocked, but deep inside, I totally understood her. And all I could hear was my dream asking me, you know, Kim, you spent all this time helping all these women get to where we want them to be, but you never stop to ask yourself, where do you want to be? I had completely lost sight of my dream. And at that moment, I realized that the only thing the role model in me was demonstrating was how to live life the way I was expected to live, not the way I wanted to live. I was successful, yes, but I was unfulfilled. And for me, that was a defining moment. You see, I still love the arts, but what I realized is that the singing, the dancing, the acting were more about freedom for me, not entertainment. Freedom of expression, freedom of being, freedom of doing. And working with women all over the world, I have come to realize that every woman was born to live in a soulful state of fulfillment. And ladies, we can do it because fulfillment is not a fantasy, it's a formula. And what I do know is I am not alone. There are other women out there like me who want to live a successful and fulfilled life. So is that you? If so, here's what I want you to do. Come on over to www.successfulandfulfilledinterview.com and let's have a conversation. I really, really look forward to seeing you there.